So the shop is a total mess after our trip, and the RZR is quite dirty. We're going to utilize some of the sunshine we have today to give her a wash and give her a good clean down. We got some things to fix. Little breakdown of our trip to Winchester. We had really no big issues as far as hardware on the RZR or on the X3 or that YXE. Everything went fine, so everything was good there. The only issue we had is I lost a lug nut out in the sand. So if you're out in the sand in Winchester and you find my lug nut, hit me up. The other thing was the shifter on the 16 turbo decided to stop working without assistance at the motor. So gonna have to tear that apart and replace it or fix it, whatever the case may be. The first step in doing that is cleaning the RZR. So let's get to it. What do you do when you can't put it in park? Trailer shocks. Safety first. So when we were on the dunes, we manually had to do the shifting by hand, and that seemed to work when we had the two-person team, but when you try to do it by yourself, the shifter up front, it won't engage all the way to park. So we got to take apart the plastic from the shifter, take a look at the cable, and see what we're up against, because I don't think there's anything wrong up back here in the trans. Jackpot! If you haven't gotten these tools yet, they are super helpful on getting those little plastic push pins in and out. The shifter down here is connected to the pivot, which then goes to the booted wire. And as I shift, you can hear it grinding down here. So I think we got a frayed wire or something here. So I'm going to disconnect the pivot, take the boot off, inspect the wire, see if we're not jammed up in there. So if we take a look at the boot down here, this boot goes from the shifting pivot all the way back to where it goes to the chassis, and this will come back. So if you ever need to do a repair or something, you can cut it here and you can zip tie it back down to this at this point right here. And then that should give you a good on-trail repair. But if you look back on here, hard to see on video, but right about there is a pinch point. So at some point the shifter was jammed. The primary cable metal sleeve is right here, and it ends just right behind this little point here. And when it got jammed into park for whatever reason, it caught and pinched the outer sleeve, and now it's binding, and this is not repairable. You can't replace it without buying a whole new cable. So looks like we are due for a new shifter cable. I'm not gonna lie, wasn't expecting to have Polaris deliver the shifter cable in 3 days, but they nailed it. Whoever at Polaris is working on their shipping department is starting to get things done. Just drop the flipping pin down into the center tunnel. I think I got it. Aw, heck yeah. Alright, so for all you guys doing a shifter cable swap, you'll notice that either side of the cable is a little different. So this side over here, you'll see that the threads stop at the crimp, and on this left side it stops further down on the neck, and the side with the longer threads is going to be your adjustment side. So on this turbo, the adjustments at the transmission. On thousands, I believe it's backwards, where the adjustments are up at the shifter. So make sure you get it in the right way according to your model. Good way is to obviously just match what's already there. And for a tip on you guys that are replacing this, it's kind of hard to snake this cable down under the transmission, around the motor, and then up to the firewall. So one thing you can do is you can zip tie the end that's going to be going up to the shifter cable to the back where the transmission is, and then just snake it through as you pull the old one out. One of the important things to remember when you're doing this is that you can easily bend that shaft in there. So we'll take a look at the old one, but that's what broke on the old one. So we gotta make sure to be gentle with it, make sure that it's not getting bent, and make sure we're taking our time. You'll see that on the threads here, you can't see on the camera, but there's a flat spot in the threads, and that goes into the metal bracket. Like that. Since this is the non-adjustment side, we just tighten it down and reconnect it. Make sure you got your bushing on there, and your washer, and your pin. Just like that. Alright, so before you mount your new cable, they come with the new bolt and clip and all that. But if you left the old one on and there's nothing wrong with it, you can just take the new one off and keep it as a spare. On these pins that come with a plastic bushing, if yours is deteriorated, worn out, or cracking, just go ahead and use the new one. It's not worth keeping the old one on there. Alright, so when you get your shifting cable back on the bracket, you're going to have a length of about 1.5 inches or so of thread. You're going to want to put it somewhere near the middle and then lock it in. This bracket will should have a double slot in it to hold one side of the nut, so you only have to tighten one side. But just do a light tight, you don't have to crank it down, just to get it into position. Once you have it there, then go shift it, see if you can get into all your gears, park, neutral, low, high. If it doesn't get all the way into park, then you're going to need to shorten it by moving the threads down and the nuts up. If you can't get all the way into high, then you're going to need to move it down and the nuts down the threads and pull this further back so that you have more length to push the transmission further back. Part. Reverse. Low, high. So, looks like we just about nailed it. It's shifting smoothly. This is about as smooth as a Polaris can. So, I'm going to tighten her down and call this one done. This might not look horrible, but when you have close tolerances and dirt and grime and everything else, this becomes a huge problem. So, as you can see, if you look here on the outer casing, there's quite significant pinching. And you can see kind of the profile of where the inner sleeve went and then jammed. So there's lots of issues in here where this inner sleeve catches. It just wasn't a good platform. You can see how loose and sloppy it is here. It had been cranked a number of times in that housing and is no longer stable. So if you ever have a hard time shifting your vehicle into gear or into park, this may be a consideration. So when you're going into gear, you're pulling the cable out usually. And so that usually isn't the problem. The problem is usually trying to get it back in the neutral or into park or even reverse, which is what kind of triggered where we went with this. So look for these dents and indents, creases, anywhere where it might bind, or if it's just excessively loose and not holding its shape and function. So one problem solved, on to the next thing. Alright, so now I'm off to Target to get a USB hub for Ian's laptop because the audio interface that we sent him home with to do the recording for the podcast apparently doesn't like his Mac, so apparently a USB hub is going to fix it, so we're going to go get ourselves a USB hub from the last known place in our area that have one. So hopefully they do have one. Walmart said they had 7 of them and had 0. So hopefully Target is a little bit better on their accuracy than the multi-billion-dollar Walmart. So I just went to Fred Meyer, and they actually had one. Target lied on their website, just like Walmart's. But we got what we need. Now off to Ian's. Hey man, you got the goods? You got the good stuff?
I don't know. What is the good stuff?
You got the butt wipes?
The TP?
You got the TP for my bunghole?
You're gonna have to make do with socks, buddy.
All right, welcome back to the Side by Side Guys podcast. I am Big Z.
And I'm Ian with Full Throttle Battery.
And we are actually recording remote today. We are sheltering in place because Washington State just got shut down. We have a special guest. He is the owner and founder of SxS UTV. Welcome, Matthew Scarpozzi. Is it Scarpozzi? Scarpuzzi?
Scarpuzzi, it's a tough one.
Oh, man. We actually have one of your newest versions here. We want to give one of these away to the community. You've generously donated this case to us. We're going to give us away to listeners of the podcast. Time to get some winners and prizes. Let's go. So we are going to a flyover by the Air Force of our local heroes over by the local medical centers. Hopefully we can get a good shot of the jets coming by. Well, we found a cool spot overlooking the town. All the major hospitals are right behind us, but forgot the memory card on the camera, so you guys will be getting cell phone footage of this one. That was it. All she wrote. What do you think? All these people just to see a couple tankers.